this is the free agent part of the year that does not count against the compensatory formula. So you can sign free agents without losing comp picks and so on and so forth. So that's something we know the Niners care about. If you could add one piece to the puzzle to try to help this team, because, I mean, I like this 49er team to win 10, 11, 12 games, maybe even more. If they get off to a hot start, they may win 13 or 14. I think it's a really, really easy schedule, and I think they're a better team than people think. I don't think the defections that they've had are nearly as dramatic. They're more dramatic in number than they are in actual value. So I think 49ers are going to be okay, but do they need one more piece to get over the top? And if so, who would that be?
Yeah, you're asking for one. I'll give the people what they want. And I just have a couple of free agents that come off the dome as players who I think would make a lot of sense for the Niners. And what I think San Francisco and a lot of teams, frankly, are going to do at this point is that you have OTAs for the Niners coming up this upcoming week. Then you have mandatory minicamp early in June. You might go into training camp just trying to survey, check out this roster to see where you're at. Are the rookies ready to go? Do you believe that they can be contributors right off the rip? Or is there a little bit steeper of a learning curve than you were anticipating? And if that's the case, yeah, you might have to address a couple of different positions. And so along the offensive line, a guy like Brandon Scherf is available. He's a former top 5 pick and has been to multiple Pro Bowlers while with the Washington Redskins at the time and was most recently with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so that's a very experienced player who could help you along the offensive line. At wide receiver, Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen are both out there. That would hinge on the development and the leap that you're hoping to see from Ricky Pearsall. It could also be a health update on Brandon Ayuk. How is Jacob Cowing, Jordan Watkins, Isaiah Nair, Tariq Owens? How are they doing? What's going to happen with the potential suspension of a player like Demarcus Robinson? Amari Cooper is on a Hall of Fame trajectory for what he's been able to do throughout his career. He's different than a guy like Keenan Allen, who is more of that jump ball 50-50 guy who's not going to wow you with his speed. And so those are the two top wide receivers. Is Upton Stout ready to go in the slot? If he's not, do you move Diamador Lenore inside with Renardo Green on the outside? And then does Asante Samuel Jr. get a clean bill of health? He had to undergo a neck surgery. So that's a little bit of a concern coming off a year in which he missed a lot of time with a shoulder injury. But prior to last year, former second-round pick out of Florida State. They've developed really good corners. Deion Sanders back in the day, recent memory, Renardo Green, Azareye'h Thomas, Jalen Ramsey, and so they developed the heck out of really good corners. And Asante Samuel has had double-digit pass breakup numbers every year in his career prior to last year when he only played 4 games. So he's played primarily on the outside. Do you go Asante Samuel Jr. on the outside, Diamador Lenore on the inside, with then Renardo Green on the other side? At linebacker, C.J. Mosley was an excellent player under Robert Saleh during his time with the New York Jets. Missed a lot of time last year, but in 2023, he was one of the best linebackers in the game. That hinges on what you see from Nick Martin, D. Winters, Tatum Bethune, a guy like Jalen Graham. Can they make those next leaps? Do you feel confident in those players? Kaiser White has had 3 100 tackle seasons in the last 4 years. That's another player who I think could make some sense for San Francisco. And then at safety, Malik Mustafa, he had that surgery and that repair on his ACL. How long is he going to be out? How does Jason Pinnock, Richie Grant look alongside Jair Brown? Can Jair Brown rebound from a down year last year? If he does, he's going to be in that one starting safety spot. If he can't, you might need 2 safeties to start the year. And so you have Justin Simmons, you have Julian Blackmon and players like that. So those are free agents who are still available, who aren't going to break the bank, who I think make a lot of sense for the Niners for those reasons that I gave.
I would sit tight mostly because I think I would wait until, this next go round. Let's see camp. Let's see the preseason. Let's see what players shake free at the cut down or in August when, jobs are won, jobs are lost, rosters are shuffled, guys become available under the radar. I think I would hold off for the most part. But the one guy that's super intriguing to me is that I'm looking at, some of these teams post-draft and reading some of the articles around the mini camps. about the different reactions to the players, because the rookie mini camps, is where you kind of find out, hey, you know what, this guy isn't just our 4th round pick. This guy's going to be our starter at wide receiver. This guy's not just our 7th round pick. This guy could be actually compete for a starting job on the offensive line. I mean, this is where you kind of see that in rookie camp. There was the Locked On Jets guys did a whole breakdown on their wide receiver core, and they think Malachi Corley is going to get cut. And their argument was that Garrett Wilson's their 1. They signed Josh Reynolds and Tyler Johnson as free agents. They still have Alan Lazard. That's 4. The talk of Jets OTAs has been the rookie from Georgia, Arian Smith, who was their 4th round pick. And to me, that was a terrible 4th round pick because the guy can't catch. But he can run like the wind, right? He's one of the greatest athletes of any wide receiver in college football. Supposedly he's lighting it up in their minicamp. So that's 5 receivers. Then they have Xavier Gipson, who's a very accomplished return man, who they really want to carve out a roster spot for him. So that's number 6. They also have Jamal Pritchett from South Alabama, who's a pretty good undrafted player. That's 7. And Corley would be 8. And I only bring this up because Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas is now a scout with the Eagles. Saleh, obviously now the defensive coordinator of the Niners. They traded up in the 24 draft in the 3rd round to draft Malachi Corley. Yep. He only got 6 targets his rookie year. He caught 3 balls. He also downed the ball at the 1-yard line stupidly, thinking that he had crossed into the end zone. So that brought a lot of negative Jets fans on him. But if the Jets want to say goodbye to Malachi Corley because they love Arian Smith and Tyler Johnson and Josh Reynolds and Xavier Gipson, and they don't want to have 8 wide receivers, if I'm the Niners, that I would absolutely come correct on a significant offer for Malachi Corley. He's the most Deebo-like player I think I've seen. They're not going to have Deebo. They need a replacement. This guy could be it. I'd gamble on upside. I'd even be willing to throw a mid-round pick in 26 or a player to the Jets to make it happen. But if Saleh, okay to trade up in last year's draft, maybe he would be a fan of Corley and want to bring him to San Francisco. I know the Niners could use another receiver, but I'd rather it not be an old guy who makes money. I'd rather it be a young guy who, if he gets cut, he gets cut. If he makes the practice squad, he makes the practice squad. But there's no real financial, weight to the whole thing. What do you think of that idea? What do you think of trying to get a guy like Corley to the Niners mix?
Well, the youth movement would fit the route that they've really been on this offseason. And another option for San Francisco is to go about it this way, right? You go into training camp, you go into preseason, you examine your roster, but then you just monitor the waiver wire for roster cutdown day to see which quality players from other teams are going to be let go. And if there's a feeling that a player is on the roster bubble, might get let go, but you don't want to risk that player having to go through waivers to pick them up on the waiver claim, maybe you do trade for a player like Malachi Corley. A couple of other players, too, who I just want to mention real quick.
Yeah.
Because it kind of fits the Niners and what they might be looking for. Like Jadeveon Clowney is still out there if you need defensive end depth, if you don't like where you're at with Sam Okuwanu or your Turgros Matos. And then Zadarius Smith has experience playing in the wide 9, and he's been a productive player as well. So Clowney, Smith, 2 veterans, highly productive players throughout their respective careers. They could make sense for San Francisco. As far as Malachi Corley, there's been a couple of players the last few drafts who we have talked about as Deebo Samuel replacements, because it was always a possibility in your and I's eyes that the Niners could move on from Deebo. We kind of were ahead of this well before it actually came to fruition earlier this offseason. And this was going into when Deebo signed the extension prior to the 2022 season. And then the last 2 off seasons when there was some buzz that maybe the Niners could move off of Deebo because they were looking to prioritize Brandon Ayuk instead. And we ended up being right on that because the Niners traded Deebo away. But Malachi Corley and Treylon Burks are kind of 2 players who I've looked at as like Deebo Samuel type of players who can fulfill the role of Deebo as far as being that Swiss Army knife. Now, Malachi Corley went to Western Kentucky, and he was taken in the 2024 draft. So this would be the Jets admitting that they whiffed and failed on that pick. But I really liked him in the pre-draft process. He ran a little bit slow, just under 4.6, but as far as how he's built, He's built a lot like a Deebo Samuel player. And as far as how he was utilized in 2022, he caught 101 passes for nearly 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns. And then he also had 11 carries for 87 yards. Numbers went down in 2023. A couple of reasons for that. He was under 1,000 receiving yards, but he had 11 touchdowns once again. So he has just had the ability to find the end zone, and he has versatility to his game. Treylon Burks was a first-round pick out of Arkansas. Again, the Razorbacks used him in a Deebo Samuel type of way. He could end up getting cut by Tennessee. And so if you're looking for a player to fulfill that Deebo role, those are two players who could end up getting cut, let go, or you could trade for them and not have to give up too much.
Great stream. We'll call it right here on the way out. Give me one training camp, summertime, bold 49er prediction. You got a bold 49er prediction for what's coming up this summer. And it could be anything. It could be coaching. It could be anything. It could be, somebody wins a job. Somebody's a factor. Somebody gets hurt. Give me a bold prediction.
I like it
on this summer.
I think the 5 rookies can start on defense. Michael Williams at defensive end, Alfred Collins at defensive tackle, CJ West at defensive tackle, Nick Martin at weak side linebacker. That's where I think the Niners envision him being, and then Upton Stout at corner. I also think that Connor Colby could start at left guard for the Niners and take down a Ben Barch, a Spencer Burford, or a Nick Sakel for that spot. And if Jacob Cowing doesn't show something, could he end up getting cut and be on the roster bubble? He has some wiggle and explosiveness to his game, but that's a pretty crowded wide receiver room for San Francisco. How about you?
I got several bold predictions. One, I'll steal one of yours. I love the Connor Colby starting at guard. The guy made 50 career starts. I've studied his film extensively. I think he can do it. I think there's a very good chance he takes that job. I also think Corey Kiner outplays Jordan James. I really believe Corey Kiner is going to be a good player. And I'll say this, after just watching the workouts, Sebastian Valdez, just remember that name.
Okay.
Sebastian Valdez. He's a University of Washington kid. He finished up at defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Undrafted, 6'4", 300 pounds. But you could just see in the rookie camp, this guy's got strength. This guy's got determination. He plays really hard. I CJ West and Alfred Collins, they got 2 jobs locked up, right? But after that, I mean, Jordan Elliott, Kevin Givens, Kalia Davis, Evan Anderson, that's going to be a pretty good competition. And it looks from afar like a 4-man competition between those guys, but throw Valdez in there and don't be surprised if Valdez outperforms those other guys, because the motor, the strength, the explosiveness, this guy's a player. I'm pretty sure that 300 pounds, when they put the pads on, this guy had incredible 34 reps on the bench, but then when you watch the film, there's functional strength, and then there's quickness there that really is great for a 300 pounder. They lined him up at defensive end at times. And looped him inside. So Sebastian Valdez, Corey Kiner, and I'm all about your Connor Colby. I think that's absolutely on the money.
Hard to find the scheme fits for a defensive tackle on a wide 9, but Valdez could be that.
Valdez looks. I'm telling you, he looks real. Let's just say there's real, and then there's guys like, that guy's not real. That guy looks real to me.